armor glinting in the sun, swords ringing in the chaos of battle, and kingdoms rising and falling by your command. Welcome, fellow warriors, to a realm where history collides with legend. What's up, gamers? Red Creep here, and today we're diving into the best medieval games on PC for 2025, whether you're craving blood-soaked battles, cunning political schemes, or quests worthy of a bard's ballad. And if your favorite medieval RPG, strategy gem, or chaotic tavern simulator isn't on here, sound off in the comments. But first, let's see if you can guess our top pick. Don't forget to smash that subscribe and ring the bell. You won't want to miss the battles ahead. Now, on to the list. Kingdom Come, Deliverance 2. It's a hard-knock life in medieval Bohemia. Life was tough in 15th century Bohemia, and so it is here, in its virtual counterpart. The first 10 hours of this game were thoroughly miserable. Stepping into the mud-soaked boots of Henry, a humble blacksmith-turned-knight, I am sent to deliver a message across a war-ravaged region. Yet before Henry can fulfill his duty, he falls victim to a deadly ambush, leaving himself and his lord, Hans Capon, stranded without a penny or sword to their name. As a stranger, arriving in tattered rags, blood-soaked and desperate, no one believes that you are a nobleman, or has the time to listen to your increasingly urgent pleas. Townsfolk comment on your odor and refuse to let you into various establishments. It's a truly humbling gaming experience, creating a soberingly bleak recreation of what it's like to be among medieval society's downtrodden. The main story eventually whisks you away on increasingly impressive exploits, but in the early game, merely surviving the day is an adventure in itself. In this harsh feudal fantasy, you can save your progress only two ways: sleeping in your own bed or drinking a bottle of Savior schnapps. When you can't afford a night at an inn and Henry doesn't even have a horse, each new map-spanning journey is risky. Some of those early deaths cost me hours of progress. Manor Lords is a medieval town builder strategy game. You're a petty lordling who must build up your town, its resources, and its militia in order to drive out rival lords who've claimed territory that's rightfully yours. Manor Lords launched in early access on Steam and PC Game Pass and has already sold over 1 million copies, a staggering feat considering it's only been available for less than a week. Clearly, there's an appetite for this flavor of game, so I spent some time with it just to see how good the food tastes. First and foremost, Manor Lords is a solo-developed early access game. There are plenty of warnings that there will be bugs and missing or imperfect features. My biggest pet peeve with the game relates to its UI. Unless you're placing buildings in the middle of an open field, it can be very hard to see where things are. I'm not the most aesthetically minded manor lady. I place resource-specific buildings close to their intended source. That means when I plop my foraging hut next to a berry deposit in the middle of a forest, it essentially disappears. To find it, I have to either zoom in and search for it, or wave my mouse around hoping to highlight it. I'd love to be able to turn on an interface that displays all my buildings, or at least have the ability to drag and select a specific area to see any buildings in that section. The Kingdom of the Aserai was perpetually at war, swapping towns and castles with rival lands, borders shifting constantly, refugees fleeing across the desert as raiders and looters took advantage of the chaos. Bad days, except for me, an opportunistic clan leader, mercenary, small business owner, caravaneer, occasional blacksmith, eventual king, and very successful war profiteer. Mount and Blade 2. Bannerlord keeps you busy. Even more so than its predecessor, Bannerlord's setup is a dream come to life, splicing together role-playing, strategy, and medieval duels in a big ol' sandbox. It's chivalry, Crusader Kings, and Total War in a single expansive package, and for me there isn't another combination this seductive. When it launched in early access, there was already so much to play with that it hardly felt early access at all. Along with the cosmetic and quality of life improvements it boasted over its predecessor, it also promised more management wrinkles thanks to its much-touted political and clan systems. Jumping in again for this review, I was equally smitten, but as I moved from nobody to mercenary and then from lord to king, I started to notice the gaps within each system. and the sacrifices that were made to create a game this broad. Turns out the answer is never. Asobo's follow-up. A Plague Tale. Requiem is just as gory and bleak as its predecessor, and as the siblings continue to battle through a violent world that wants them dead, they'll both face difficult moral decisions in the name of survival. Oh, and there are more rats. Like, a lot more rats. In Requiem, the duo are forced to flee their homeland and travel south, still trying to find a way to control Hugo's supernatural power that allows him to control the rats. The two are searching specifically for an island that has appeared in Hugo's dreams in the hope that it holds the key to saving him from his affliction. It's a long shot, but it's the only lead they've got. Much of what you'll be doing is the same as the first game. Lots of sneaking around, taking out soldiers with Amisha's sling, using different alchemy combinations, and deviously manipulating the horde of rats to work in your favor. It's all very familiar, but Requiem expands on many of these features, making for a bigger, bleaker sequel. I've become completely tangled up in Crusader Kings 3's plots and family trees. It's my jailer, keeping me far too busy orchestrating murders and becoming pen pals with the King of France to leave the flat. I should probably do something about that, but I've got this succession crisis to sort out. You know how it is. There never feels like a good time to step away from Paradox's grand strategy RPG. You can't just go for a nice walk when your ruler is on death's door, or the Byzantine Empire has just declared a holy war. There's always someone somewhere setting a fire that you're going to have to deal with. It's one more crisis syndrome, and I've got it bad. Anyone who's played Crusader Kings 2 should be familiar with the ailment and be well prepared for the sequel. You are once again the head of an early medieval dynasty, and you'll try to keep it trucking for as long as you can by clicking on its elaborate map and stacks of menus. Your tools are diplomacy, intrigue, warfare, and luck, and your goals are whatever whims your mind conjures up. Game of Thrones. Winter is Coming is the officially licensed Game of Thrones browser game featuring many places and characters so loved by the TV series fans. The game is authentic, fun, and quite a challenge. Kingdom building is what you'll be doing the most, but there are also some very welcomed and interesting gameplay elements like real-time 3D battles in the style of an MMORTS game. The graphics are phenomenal, and the soundtrack is on par with the amazing one of the TV show. While it is very unforgiving to solo players, the game shines in group play with its stellar alliance system that promotes teamwork to reach the end game and rule the Iron Throne. Overall, this is a solid free-to-play browser game that every fan of the TV show should at least try. Very simple. You play the Grand Campaign as one of the many historic faction of the late Middle Ages, from Britain via Venice to Moors. Your goal is to capture 45 regions plus one of the special cities like Rome or Jerusalem, which depend on the faction. In parallel, you need to raise armies, build and maintain your cities, keep the people happy with low taxes and religion, escape the scrutiny of the Inquisition if you happen to be playing as one of the Catholic nations, defeat the Mongol invasion, and destroy your rivals, from rebels to fickle and avaricious neighbors. Deep breath. In a turn-based system with separate strategy and battle action, you work your magic, charm, and cunning. You have diplomats to strike trade agreements and alliances, princesses to woe foreign nobility, spies to keep an eye on dodgy enemies, and assassins to take care of personae not grata, i.e., anyone you don't really like. You can raise extra capital through merchants and convert people to your religion with priests. As you can imagine, this is a central piece of the game, so you can't neglect the ecclesiastical duties lest your folks rebels against you. What is it, 40 seconds? Okay, a bit more. In theory, you start the game with neutral relations with everyone, but as time goes by, some of the other factions may decide to stir a war or three. You will find yourself embroiled in open warfare, even if you only intended to peacefully crush the rebels in various regions. And that means lots of high-quality troops, battle-hardened generals, forts to cover strategic crossings and roads, and long, tense, music-flavored battles where thousands of individually rendered units fighting to the death on large, beautifully styled maps that match the region, from snowy Alps to sandy northern Africa.